30 years later, the dream is alive again. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, the couple that made millions believe in fairy tales, are finally reuniting on screen. Fans begged, rumors spread, but now it's real. Pretty Woman 2 is officially happening, and the release date has been confirmed. When Pretty Woman hit theaters in 1990, no one could have predicted the cultural storm it would create. It wasn't just another romantic comedy, it became the romantic comedy. The film turned Julia Roberts into a worldwide star and cemented Richard Gere as one of Hollywood's most charming leading men. Their chemistry was so electric that audiences couldn't help but fall in love with them.
How?
People didn't just watch the movie. They lived it, quoted it, and held it close to their hearts. The story of Vivian, a free-spirited woman with big dreams, and Edward, a wealthy businessman who discovers love in the most unexpected way, captured the imagination of millions. It was a modern fairy tale wrapped in glossy Hollywood glamour, but what made it unforgettable was its heart. Viewers weren't just entertained, they were moved. That moment when Vivian climbs into the limo for the first time, or when Edward climbs the fire escape at the end with flowers in hand, became etched in movie history. Pretty Woman wasn't only a success at the box office, it was a cultural reset. With a budget of just about $14 million, the film grossed over $460 million worldwide. That kind of success is almost unheard of, especially for a romantic film in an era dominated by action thrillers and blockbusters. And then came the awards and recognition. Julia Roberts won a Golden Globe and received an Academy Award nomination for her role. Suddenly, she wasn't just the girl with the bright smile. She was America's sweetheart. But the true power of the movie was beyond numbers and trophies. It was about connection. Couples watched it on date nights. Friends bonded over it at sleepovers. Families rented the VHS and replayed it until the tape wore out. Even today, you'll find Pretty Woman quoted in pop culture, from sitcoms to late-night monologues. Lines like "big mistake," "huge," are still as recognizable as they were more than 3 decades ago. And here's something that adds to the legend. Pretty Woman wasn't supposed to be the movie we know today. The original script was darker, more dramatic, and much less romantic. But with Julia Roberts' charm and Richard Gere's quiet intensity, the movie transformed into a celebration of love, second chances, and believing in magic. The unexpected turn made it timeless. So why does this matter now? Because when fans hear about Pretty Woman 2, they're not just thinking of another sequel. They're reliving a memory. They're remembering where they were when they first saw the movie. They're remembering how it felt to believe that love can appear in the most unlikely places. The sequel isn't just another Hollywood production. It's a promise to bring that magic back. That's why the news of Julia Roberts and Richard Gere reuniting matters so much. This isn't a stunt or a reboot, it's a chance to see a story we thought was finished finally continue. It's the return of 2 characters who defined an entire era of romance on screen. For fans who have carried this movie in their hearts, for over 30 years, this is history being made all over again, and that's only the beginning. In the next part, we'll dive into the big reveal, how the sequel came together. What made Julia and Richard say yes after all these years, and why? This reunion feels so special right now. Asterisk, it began as a whisper. Just a small rumor in the endless world of Hollywood gossip. Fans had heard it all before. A few years, someone would claim a Pretty Woman sequel was in the works. But nothing ever came of it. Scripts would surface, producers would tease, and the idea always faded away, like a dream you could never quite hold on to. Then, suddenly, everything changed. This time, it wasn't just another headline, it was confirmation. Pretty Woman 2 was finally happening. The announcement didn't come with flashy fireworks or a loud press conference. Instead, it arrived like a slow-burning fire, igniting excitement across the world. A single statement from the studio paired. With one powerful image, Julia Roberts and Richard Gere standing side by side again. The internet practically broke. Fans who grew up with the movie, along with a new generation discovering it for the first time on streaming platforms, exploded. With joy, social media turned into a festival of nostalgia. What makes this reveal so powerful is the rarity of it. Hollywood has reunited couples before, but rarely with the same magic these two bring. Julia Roberts, now a legend with decades of unforgettable roles, still carries the same spark in her smile. Richard Gere, whose calm presence and quiet charisma won over millions, brings a maturity that makes his return even more meaningful. Seeing them together again isn't just a reunion. It feels like revisiting an old photograph that somehow comes to life. Behind the scenes, the story of how this reunion happened is just as enchanting as the film itself. Both Roberts and Gere had turned down sequel offers in the past. They were protective of Pretty Woman, careful not to spoil what fans considered perfect. But according to insiders, what finally changed their minds was the script, a story that honored the first film while giving their characters a natural continuation. Instead of chasing a cash grab, the sequel is being shaped as a genuine chapter in their love story. And let's not forget Gary Marshall. It's the original director who gave the world the first Pretty Woman, though he passed away in 2016. His legacy still guides the project. To honor him, the new creative team has vowed to keep the heart of the story intact: humor, romance, and the idea that love can transform lives in ways we never expect. For the actors, stepping back into these roles isn't just about revisiting the past, it's about paying tribute to a man who believed in fairy tales. When Julia Roberts read the new script, she reportedly said it brought her to tears. Richard Gere admitted that he felt a strange sense of destiny reading it. That kind of reaction from two actors who have seen it all tells you just how meaningful this project is. It's not just another sequel, it's a love letter to the fans who kept the story alive for more than 30 years. So here we are, living through a moment that many thought would never come. The pretty woman and the silver-haired businessman are stepping out of memory and back into the spotlight. The curtain is lifting, and this time, fairy tale continues. And if you think the reveal was exciting, wait until you hear what's coming next. The plot, the twists, the future of Vivian and Edward, it's all waiting to be uncovered. The next section will dive deep into the story hints and what fans can expect from this long-awaited sequel. Asterisk, the biggest question fans have is simple. What happens after the fairy tale ends? For over 3 decades, audiences have imagined what became of Vivian and Edward after that unforgettable fire escape scene. Did they live happily ever after?
Yes.
Did their differences pull them apart? Or did life, with all its unpredictability, rewrite their love story in ways none of us expected? Now, Pretty Woman 2 finally gives us an answer. While the studio has been careful to protect the script, a few details have slipped into the spotlight. This sequel isn't about recreating the past, it's about facing the present. Vivian once, the spirited outsider with dreams bigger than her world, has grown into a woman of power and independence. No longer the girl who waited for a rescue, she is now someone who has built a life on her own terms. Edward, the polished businessman with walls around his heart, has also transformed. Time has humbled him, softened his edges, and left him searching for something more meaningful than wealth. The story brings them back together after years apart. Not in a glamorous hotel suite or a Hollywood-style coincidence, but in a way that feels raw and real. Rumors suggest that the sequel will explore themes of love that matures with age, love that has endured heartbreak, separation, and change. It's not about first glances anymore. It's about second chances. There are whispers of a conflict. That drives the story forward, a decision that could either bring them closer than ever before or finally tear them apart. Some insiders hint at a family element, possibly involving children or the next generation, which adds new layers to the story. Imagine Vivian, once judged and underestimated, now serving as a mentor figure, or even a mother who has to explain her past. Imagine Edward, once obsessed with control, learning to let go as life takes turns he never expected. What makes these hints so powerful is that they align perfectly with what fans want. A story that respects the magic of the original, but doesn't repeat it. Pretty Woman 2 isn't set in the neon glow of 1990s Beverly Hills, it's set in the present, with characters who have lived, lost, and grown. That makes their reunion not just exciting but believable. And let's be honest, romantic comedies rarely get sequels that work. Too often they chase the laughs without honoring the heart. But early word suggests this script understands what made Pretty Woman unforgettable. The balance between humor and heartbreak, between fantasy and reality. We'll see Vivian and Edward in moments that make us laugh, moments that make us ache, and moments that remind us why their story mattered in the first place. Of course, Hollywood loves to keep secrets, and there are still mysteries surrounding the plot. Will there be callbacks to the most iconic moments of the first film? Will Vivian's red dress and Edward's limousine make a symbolic return? Will the fire escape become more than just a memory? The creative team has stayed quiet, leaving fans to speculate, but that silence only builds anticipation. What we do know is this: Pretty Woman 2 won't just be a love story between two people. It will be a story about time, about how love changes, and about how the past always finds a way of shaping the future. That's what makes it more than a sequel. It's a continuation of a legend, and just when fans thought they couldn't be more excited, the studio dropped one more surprise: a confirmed release date. In the next section, we'll uncover exactly when the film is hitting theaters and why that date might make history all over again. Asterisk. Every great love story has its moment of destiny, the day when everything comes full circle. For fans of Pretty Woman, that moment has finally arrived. After years of waiting, speculating, and replaying the original film again and again, the sequel doesn't just exist in whispers anymore. It has a date, carved into the calendar like a promise. A promise that the magic is real, and it's coming back. The reveal of the release date didn't feel like a simple announcement. It felt like a cultural event. For weeks, fans had been holding their breath, scrolling through social media, scanning entertainment blogs, desperate for one detail. When? Then, in a single post shared across platforms, the answer arrived. A bold poster, drenched in shades of red and gold, the words that shook the internet. Pretty Woman 2 release date. And just like that, the countdown began. The timing is no accident. Hollywood studios know how to play with nostalgia. But this isn't just clever marketing. It's strategic, almost poetic. The chosen release window aligns with romance season, when the air itself feels like a reminder of love stories. A time when theaters glow with the energy of date nights, laughter, and hand-holding. For many, watching Pretty Woman 2 won't just be about seeing a movie. It will be an event, shared experience. Parents who first fell in love with the original will now sit beside grown children. Passing the torch of a classic fairy tale reimagined, theaters are already preparing for what? Insiders are calling one of the most anticipated romantic comebacks in decades. Advanced ticketing campaigns, special double-feature screenings of the 1990 classic paired with the sequel, and even luxury premiere events are rumored.
Right.
Streaming giants too are circling, because when Pretty Woman returns, it doesn't just belong to one generation, it belongs to all of them. But beyond the logistics, the date means something deeper. It marks the moment Vivian and Edward step out of memory and into the present. It's the day the world gets to rediscover what love looks like after years of distance, after change, after growth. For Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, it's more than a comeback, it's a second chapter written in real time. The announcement video itself was a masterpiece of simplicity. No dialogue, no spoilers, just music and imagery. The iconic jewelry box snapping shut, the skyline of Beverly Hills fading into the present day. And finally, the reveal of two shadows walking side by side. Then, the words, "True love never fades." Pretty Woman 2. Release date. Within hours, hashtags trended globally. Memes, fan edits, and reaction videos flooded every corner of the internet. And that's the power of a date. It transforms dreams into reality. It gives fans something to hold on to, something to circle on their calendars, something to count down. To day by day, it's no longer someday, it's now set in stone. So when the curtain finally rises on that date, theaters will fill, screens will glow, and the world will pause for just a moment. Because after more than 30 years, a fairy tale that once felt complete is opening its doors again. And this time, the magic will belong to a new chapter. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, the release date is only the beginning of a storm. Fan reactions, cultural buzz, and the wave of excitement that's spreading across the globe deserve a chapter of their own. In the next section, we'll dive into the voices of the fans, the celebrations online, and the way this sequel is already shaping the culture before it even premieres. Asterisk the moment the words Pretty Woman 2 and a confirmed release date hit the world. It was as if the internet collectively gasped. Within minutes, timelines lit up, hashtags trended, and fans who had carried the first film in their hearts for decades suddenly had a reason to celebrate. This wasn't just movie news. It felt like a reunion, a chance to revisit a love story that defined an era. Across social media, reactions poured in. Longtime fans shared personal stories, couples who had their first date watching Pretty Woman in 1990, parents who introduced their children to the film on VHS or DVD, and even young adults who had only just discovered Vivian and Edward through streaming platforms. One tweet captured the mood perfectly. I watched Pretty Woman. It's my mom when I was 12. Now we'll be watching the sequel together 30 years later. This is more than a movie. It's family history. Nostalgia became the beating heart of the conversation. Clips from the original film resurfaced everywhere. Vivian's shopping spree, Edward snapping the jewelry box, the fire escape finale. Memes compared Julia Roberts' radiant smile then and now, showing that some magic never fades. TikTok edits layered the old film's soundtrack over teaser posters for the sequel, creating a bridge between generations. For Gen Z and millennials, who grew up hearing about the movie but never lived through its cultural takeover, this was their chance to experience the hype in real time. But what made the buzz truly unique was its tone. Too often, sequels are met with skepticism, eye rolls, and questions about whether Hollywood is out of ideas. Not here. Instead, the reaction was overwhelmingly hopeful, even protective. Fans weren't asking, why are they making this? We're saying, finally. That collective sigh of relief came from the trust Julia Roberts and Richard Gere have built over decades. Their reunion isn't a gimmick, it's a gift. Even celebrities joined the chorus. Fellow actors, directors, and musicians publicly cheered the announcement. Some admitted they had watched Pretty Woman so many times they could recite entire scenes. Entertainment journalists called it the romantic comeback of the century. Film critics who normally treat sequels with suspicion acknowledged that this project feels different. It's almost sacred. And then there were the trending hashtags, hashtag Pretty Woman 2, hashtag Vivian and Edward, and hashtag Love Never Fades, all dominated platforms for days. Fan art poured in, digital paintings of Julia and Richard side by side. Imagined posters of Vivian in her red dress standing in modern-day Beverly Hills. Some fans even staged Pretty Woman cosplay meets in excitement, dressing as their favorite characters and posting photos with signs that read, "See you at the sequel." What's striking is how the excitement has crossed cultural and generational boundaries. In Europe, theaters announced plans for themed release nights. In Asia, streaming services reported a spike in Pretty Woman rewatch numbers the very week the sequel was confirmed. In Latin America, fans flooded Instagram with messages about how the original film gave them hope and love, even during hard times. This isn't just American nostalgia, it's global. The cultural buzz has already created a ripple effect in Hollywood. Other studios are scrambling to find their own lost love stories to revive. But it's clear that Pretty Woman 2 holds a unique place. It's not just reviving a franchise, it's reviving a feeling. It's a kind of storytelling that has grown rare in today's cinema landscape. And so, as the release date inches closer, the noise only grows louder. The film hasn't even premiered yet, but its impact is already undeniable. Fans aren't just waiting, they're celebrating, creating, and counting the days. The cultural storm is here, and it's only going to get bigger. But every celebration must lead to a conclusion. And in the final section, we'll tie it all together. The legacy, the reunion, the anticipation, and ask the ultimate question, will you be there to witness the fairy tale continue? And so, the story that began on a Beverly Hills sidewalk more than 30 years ago is ready to take its next breath. What started as a chance encounter between a businessman and a dreamer has grown into a legend that refuses to fade. With Pretty Woman too. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere are not just stepping into roles, they're stepping into history, carrying with them the weight of memory, the glow of nostalgia, and the promise of something new. For fans, this isn't simply about watching another film. It's about returning to a place in time where love felt infinite and possibilities were endless. It's about hearing those first few notes of the soundtrack and feeling your chest tighten with recognition. It's about looking at the screen and realizing that even after decades, the spark is still alive. Stories like this are rare. Sequels may come and go, but few can promise the magic of a fairy tale rediscovered. What makes this moment so powerful is that it belongs to everyone. To those who sat in theaters in 1990, wide-eyed and hopeful, to those who discovered the VHS tucked into a family collection, to the new generation streaming it for the first time and wondering what all the fuss was about until they feel it for themselves. This sequel is a bridge across time, connecting past and present in a way few films ever can. But now, the question shifts from the screen to you. When the lights dim and the curtain rises, will you be there? Will you step back into Vivian and Edward's world, ready to laugh, to cry, to believe once more in the kind of love that doesn't just survive but transforms? This isn't just a movie night, it's an event.